benvenuti tutti quanti a Palazzo Marino in Musica. Palazzo Marino in Musica sta diventando sempre di più un laboratorio permanente di collaborazioni per incubare idee e creare nuovi progetti. Dai microcosmi di Francesca Scotti, dove prendeva delle ispirazioni, delle suggestioni musicali per scrivere un testo, o dai Music for Milan che Irina ha elaborato ascoltando musica proveniente da diversi angoli del pianeta, è nato un progetto terzo, nuovo, proprio per questo processo di elaborazione, di scambio di idee, che un po' è stato accelerato dalla pandemia, un po' era già avviato, ed è uno dei motivi per cui siamo qui e siamo estremamente felici anche di incontrarci. Vedete già dalle scritte che siamo in diversi luoghi del mondo. Il progetto è un progetto abbastanza sofisticato, adesso cerchiamo di raccontarvelo per bene. Inizia con un'animazione grafica di Silvia Rei, che è una bravissima grafica animatrice che ha creato questa introduzione che spiega dove si arriva. Francesca Scotti insieme a lei ha elaborato il progetto, per cui il soggetto, il testo, e il dove si arriva adesso lo raccontiamo insieme. Prima di tutto, Irina, raccontaci un po' dei tuoi colleghi e di questo gruppo di musicisti così interessante, così variegato.
Sì, intanto grazie per l'invito. I will introduce shortly in Italian, and then of course I will speak in English to involve everyone. So thank you and grazie. Credo che sia una grande opportunità questa. Intanto è stata una raccolta di esperienze proprio in piena quarantena, quindi intanto localizziamo questa esperienza a circa 2 mesi fa. Quindi eravamo nel pieno del buio e anche nella prima reazione, no, rispetto a un'impossibilità di congiungerci. Io dovevo congiungermi con Huda, Asfour, dove da lì a poco, quindi avevamo ovviamente dei progetti insieme e quindi è stata proprio un po' la prima reazione: che cosa facciamo, che cosa possiamo fare, oltre che ovviamente comportarci con la parola. La seconda reazione invece è stata: come possiamo involvere gli ascoltatori in questa esperienza, no? Come possiamo passare questo messaggio dell'ascoltare e quindi di essere parte di una stanza buia dove i musicisti si incontrano e suonano. E quindi qui abbiamo chiamato rinforzi, abbiamo chiamato le persone che potevano non solo aiutarci, ma anche fare questo lavoro molto, come hai detto tu, non così semplice, né da raccontare né da sviluppare, di tradurre questo invito all'ascolto nella stanza buia, no? Di tradurre questa necessità.
È la stessa stanza dove il pubblico si trova insieme ai musicisti, no?
Sì,
è una stanza virtuale dove i musicisti suonano insieme a distanza, per cui nei luoghi che vedete, cioè l'India, gli Stati Uniti, nel linguaggio personale di ognuno, e nello stesso luogo il pubblico si ritrova e ascolta. E raccontaci un po' di personaggi, cioè come vi siete conosciuti, partendo da dove vuoi.
So the first one for me, it's Ray. So Ray, thanks to be here, and I want to introduce you first because it was Ray actually that called me, and then you can tell all the story if you want. And so I never met Ray Lustig personally, and that's also really like it's part of the experience. Let me say that, and we start to think and connect our brain and our also necessity, our problems, our in the middle of nothing, no winds, nothing, and so yeah, I want Ray, if you want, please share the first piece of the road that we did together.
Yeah. Well, we originally met. There was a it's funny. There was a piece, older piece that I'd written in 2013 that was going to be premiered, and it was ironically, it was a piece of music meant to be played over the internet, but it was meant to be played by an orchestra and 4 different string quartets in different places, and that was just too many people to, you have to have the orchestra together, you have to have the string quartets together. They can't all be in their own houses. It was going to be too complicated. So that performance was canceled eventually, but we were trying to make it happen. And we were thinking about, is there a way we can at least have the string quartets be in, from each, participating from their own house. And so we were eager to try to make it an international performance. And in particular, I was curious about how musicians in Italy were handling things, because it was right around the time that musicians in that Italy was in the
very red zone.
The very the worst of it all was just starting to hit Italy, and people were very concerned around the world. Were very concerned about Italy, and we found each other through a string of connections having to do with Facebook posts and all these kinds of things. And we connected via email, and we were still trying to work on trying to make that piece happen with Irina. And we were thinking about, can we find some other Italian musicians who could figure out a way to participate in this performance? Ultimately, it got canceled when the Canadian orchestra got concerned, and they canceled their whole season. The Thunder Bay Symphony Orchestra, they had to just cancel everything. And once that fell apart, that project just became too overwhelming. But Irina and I had been talking, and we were getting excited about it certainly does seem possible to make music over the internet, just not when you have to have an entire orchestra assemble in one room. So we kept brainstorming, and Irina had this idea of bringing in collaborators that she's worked with as a part of her group MAME, and we started meeting online and experimenting, and we experimented pretty much every day for weeks and weeks.
That's true. Every day, same hours.
Right. To try to
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Not
morning,
1 hour.
Right.
9 a.m.
It's like punching in at the office, right? Right. So
yeah.
Every morning we were up early, and we were except for Anjana, for whom it was very late. So and Irina, it was your afternoon there. So we got up, and we got to experimenting, and it was so much of the experimentation was just who can hear who, and what do they hear, and is it distorted? And when we were lucky, at the very end of our hour, we would sometimes have time to actually make a little bit of music together, and then we think it was going to work fine. Oh yeah, so we'll see everyone tomorrow morning, and we'll play for the whole hour. The next morning, we'd get online, and we'd be like, No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's hard, but it's interesting, because I think this is leading to the advance of this technology that will serve us well in the next pandemic, which we hopefully won't be for a long time.
Or actually, it could open up also new ways of collaborating and breaking breaking these boundaries that we have on locations and music collaboration.
Yeah.
And also it's kind of like you start appreciating live performances so differently. I mean, I don't know, like when I played with someone for the first time in person and with a distance outside the other day, I was like, I was moved by how much we took for granted,
Yeah.
That's very true.
So
it's a different style of music making. But, you know, it's interesting, like, would we have ever had a chance to, you know, what are the chances that we would ever be in the same place to collaborate together? You know, we all live so far apart from each other, and travel is expensive. Travel is harmful to the environment. You know, the idea that the pandemic forced musicians to figure out meaningful, powerful, practical ways to make music together over huge distances may serve us really well in the future, because we'll be able to play with people who we'll never be in the same room with. And that's what I think is really exciting.
Anjana.
È qui che vedo, traduco un attimino, I translate a bit, sorry. È qui che vedo il punto sperimentale più interessante, no? Allora, Ray raccontava che inizialmente era un progetto diverso, cioè col Canada, con l'orchestra, eccetera. Poi quello non era fattibile, si trasforma in qualcosa di diverso con la guida di MAME, diventa questo progetto qua. Però diciamo che la distanza solitamente è qualche cosa che non ti permette di suonare insieme, cioè il viaggio è troppo costoso, troppo difficile trovarsi, eccetera. Invece con questa formula è possibile suonare insieme. And so this is I was telling that this is the occasion to play together in this new dimension that is this black place where you can talk with each other without the distance anymore. That's right.
I'm really curious. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce you two ladies very, very well. Sorry. So Huda and Anjana, I called them because I want them to meet each other because I know Huda and I know Anjana, and you know, when you are sure, you're sure that these two souls have to meet each other. So that I just use this excuse to let a voice like Anjana and a voice good and voice timbre of Huda be together in the same moment. And I'm curious about Anjana. May I ask you how? Because I know you do in your life and for your daily job, you take care about recording, right? So
yeah.
What about this problem with the delay? What you think about? I mean, you make peace with this idea that play in the dark room is a different kind of experience that really do something that you can share, or what's your point of view today? I mean, after 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, this thing with the latency, it's something really interesting to work with, and rather than seeing it as a problem, it sort of becomes a part of the music. So what we do, how we collaborate, everything kind of changes. Like what Davide was saying, you're in a new dimension when you're not in the same place, when you can't hear each other at the right time, and you're hearing everything a little late, so you're responding a little late. So the music also kind of moves in that direction, and something new comes out. It's a new perspective, and it was I think that was the most interesting part for me working with this ensemble, that working with the latency and kind of playing around with that. And I think we came up with some really cool music doing so yeah, that was the interesting part for me. I don't get to do that here in Chennai otherwise.
You think it's possible to have a live show so this way? One musician is present and the other are connected. You think it's possible?
This is a question for Ray.
Question for Ray.
Great. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Yeah, the first piece I did long before the pandemic was it was that piece that was going to be performed by the Canadian Orchestra. The original premiere in 2013 was with an orchestra live in a hall with an audience there, and then 4 other string quartets in different places. And yes, it was the live musician in the hall, I think, was really meaningful. And the other thing, the musicians in the hall. Oh, the other thing that I think what was really important about that was that if you're having a show, you don't want the technology's failure to completely ruin the show. You've got an audience there. They bought tickets. They dressed up. They came to the concert hall. You want them to have something. So having, one live musician in the room is safe. It's like there's somebody who will be able to play. So even if the technology all falls apart. So there's that. So from a practical point of view, it's very, it's very nice to have a live musician. But I think it can be really moving to see, live musicians in front of you in the room here, making music with people who are not in the room, sharing something together with people far, far away on the other side of the world. I think that could be really, really beautiful. It's, when the time comes when we can have concerts together, and have an audience come together in a room, I think that there's something so beautiful about that.
Huda.
Yes.
We still don't talk about one important thing. Maybe, let me say once before in Italian. So, non abbiamo parlato di una cosa molto importante che forse noi abbiamo dato per scontato, ma all'interno della stanza buia non si suona una partitura, non seguiamo una partitura. We don't follow a score.
Yeah, we're improvising.
Not mentioning this, that's the most important part. So that's why I want to ask you, Huda. And quindi che cosa succede all'interno di questa stanza? Le persone si incontrano spesso per la prima volta. Le persone suonano una musica che non esisteva prima e quindi c'è un atto di improvvisazione, si usa l'arte dell'improvvisazione all'interno di una situazione dove invece l'ascolto dell'altro, il corpo, l'odore, l'energia, no? del corpo che è presente, la parte fondamentale dell'improvvisazione. L'ascolto dell'altro è l'ascolto del tutto e questo rende possibile un'integrazione dei suoni reali, quindi uno sforzo ancora maggiore o comunque un'esperienza da raccontare proprio perché nell'arte dell'improvvisazione ci mancava l'aspetto quasi fondamentale, quindi dell'annusare quell'altro, no? dell'avere la presenza dell'altro e quindi interagire con quell'altro suono. So what I would love to share and ask you, Huda, is I'm talking now with you about improvisation because I know that it's part of your training and also your daily life. No, it's really a way for you to do music and create music.
It's possibly my favorite form. Possibly. Yeah. I am a bit biased. I mean, composition is always very special, but there is something unique for me as in improvisation, which is this unpredictability. You go in, you're immersed in the moment, and it requires so much respect and so much attentiveness and sort of pouring of all the skills that you can have, not only as a musician, but also as a human being, in terms of thinking on your feet, being creative. And I really love the challenge that is created, but mostly I love the connection that happens between people. And of course, the fact that it's such an organic creation, and it can go so many places and really it stretches your imagination as an instrumentalist as well, when you have to sort of like, you know, be present for someone else musically. Last year in November, I got a small grant to delve more into this world and develop a way to do conducted improvisations within the Arab region, by also developing language that can translate some of the aesthetics that are very unique to that tradition. So when the pandemic hit, I had been here in the US for a short visit, and where I was supposed to be doing a lot of the research about the topic and reading on improvisations in a more academic setting. And then all of a sudden this happens, and here we are stuck. So Irina calls me and she's like, I have this idea. Do you want to be part of it? I'm like, okay, absolutely, of course. And then I listened to today's composition. Wait, it was a very cool name.
Latency.
What is it called? Your
my piece?
Yeah.
Latency cannons.
Latency cannons.
Right. So latency cannons, and you know, I'm fascinated, you know, by the possibilities that this latency brings into the table. So we delve into the technical pieces, and of course, with my background as an engineer, I'm fascinated by this problem on so many levels. And I go back to my days in terms of like figuring out coding and all these things, you know, which was really nice also to bring these worlds into like a common place for me. But what we didn't anticipate is that this latency is unpredictable, and that this latency can be different for each one of us, and that there were lots of bits and pieces that we needed to figure out from a technology perspective to be able to do this. And really, in a way, also there was a learning curve in terms of our skills as musicians. How do you listen, and how do you respond, and how do you, how do you make sense of what's happening if you can't see someone's behavior, or eye reactions, or like body movements, or even their sense of rhythm. It was, for me at least, it was much more challenging than I had anticipated, really, to deal with these limitations in technology.
Yeah, you have to listen extra hard, and in a way, you know, that extra level of there's always a level of removal in any improvisation. You're not, you don't exactly share a mind, but the attempt is to try to bring your minds together in a room. So there's always that distance. But when you have, all these technological, you have a time delay, you have you're missing so many of the cues. You're really going just on the sound, and you have to listen so closely.
It's very representative of the time of today, like the musician, how it has to be adaptive to what's going on, and so the improvisation is perfect. I mean, there's a lot of conceptual things in this project. Also, it's not just I don't know how connection with people through the technology, but there's much more. I see. I see much more.
It's true.
For me, it was like when you go for having dinner to a friend's house, you have your, I don't know, maybe you cook a cake, or you bake a cake, or you have a gift in your hand, but you put the gift on the table. You can give this gift directly in the other hand. So you always put in the table, and you just leave there, and then it's there is a space in the middle, and that's why in this situation I also heard the urgent of let the audience be in the same room with us in a way. I think that's that can be, no? That can be, because there is because this dark room, it's a space, definitely. It's a room, but it's a place where also, if people can listen to this music, can maybe be there and also be like us, surprised by reaction, guess what kind of instrument, heard, I don't know, an Indian singer, maybe also you can see the voice. It's like you can create a picture of that, no? So you can maybe image Anjana like, I don't know, animals or a statue or whatever. Maybe a Huda sound can be, something in this direction. I think it's interesting. Of course, it's part of. It's not but why not? It's a good drug. I think we need it. I mean, people need it in a way. Not need it, and can be something curious, at least curious.
I want to say that I let some friend of mine listen to this music without any introduction, without any, and both of them, they told me about this place, this space, without time, without a physical, geographical. It was impossible for them to say where and when. We're somewhere else, and so I think this is another point of the future. I mean, this new space,
a journey of time and
there's a new
and
journey
space. Yeah.
I think also it's really beautiful that we have that space now, because there's so much noise. I mean, it's really incredible that we are in these times where there's so much need for reassessing a lot in this world, and then instead it seems like there's so much coming from everywhere, and there's a lot, but I do remember, like, before the pandemic, one of the issues that I was missing, one of the things is this engagement with the audience, this capacity to be part of a performance where the audience is really immersed in the music and you're not just the background, in a way, and maybe the most beautiful part for me is creating a space where it would be possible to encourage people to listen to music this way again, maybe.
Yes, that's right.
Anjana, how is the situation in India?
It's getting bad now. Like, it's peaking only now. When we were getting together for rehearsals, it was kind of okay, but things are a little bad now in my city, especially. The cases have sort of hit the roof, and we're in lockdown right now, so things have come to a complete standstill. Yeah, things are pretty bad here, but for me personally, it's not affected so much because I'm privileged in many ways. I have a roof over my head, and I have food and electricity, and I have a lot of time to do what I want to do, and it's like Huda said, it's given me a lot of time to reassess my ways and sort of introspect into myself and think about a lot of things. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
And in the United States, New York now is better, right?
New York is getting better. I think everybody's concerned here that people will get too comfortable and think that we, acting like it's time to go back to normal, and then there's problems. So we're trying to be, I'm trying to be very careful. My wife is a physician who's working with patients all the time. So I think I owe it to the world to be extra comfortable about how many people I come in contact with, because I'm probably carrying something. I don't know.
And the school, academy and conservatory and
still closed. Juilliard is talking about opening with live students in the fall.
In the fall,
but it's still a big question mark. The New York City, my daughter attends the New York City public schools, and there's a lot of thought that it's probably going to be maybe, alternate days that they meet in person to have fewer students in the classrooms, but we'll have to see what happens. We're learning, I wonder what's, I'm curious about in Italy, are musicians starting to get together now?
Yeah, slowly.
In small groups or specific people?
A bit of distance, someone, probably if the trend is this, probably in summer we can have some concert, open air.
Yeah, open air concerts.
But of course it's always very difficult to plan. To plan from now to September is almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to do it anyway, but that probably is not going as you imagine. So this is a bit the situation in Europe.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if this is good for our brains or bad for our brains, that you have to remain always completely flexible in all of your planning, because everything can change.
Yes. It's very strange, this kind of brain position that you have to have all the time, that for everything, especially for work as a musician. Yeah. So this comfort zone that you find to play in this play is very interesting. I would like to go on also with, if you want to have collaboration with Palazzo Marino again, to see how we can develop this kind of experiment. That probably, I hope, pandemic doesn't exist anymore, but the value of being musician from different continents and playing together is still something that is, it's very precious. So
this time Huda will be the boss, okay?
Okay.
Why are you throwing me like this?
Because I love you.
Because you're so good at it, Huda.
You're so good at that.
Yeah, Davide, I actually, if it's okay, I would love to share this because I feel like for people who have been, there is something I think very precious about this global experience, is that we can all relate to this idea that it's hard to plan. The difference for me is that I was in this situation before, but in war situation. And in war, there is not that understanding outside of your immediate reality to how your life changes so drastically, and you stop being able to really have any control over your life. And I really hope that this moment becomes a moment where there's an expansion of empathy towards those who don't have the privileges that we do have, and for us to really rethink how we see, the world globally in terms of experience and relation for each other.
And you can help us to understand, because I heard that you have good understanding of many things that maybe we miss, from talking about me in Italy, that's or experience from India, for example. I really want to be open also to the work that is coming with the music, so this is
I think that's the nice part of collaborating like this with people from different cultures. It's much more than the music. You'll get to know more about different ways of thinking, and it's really nice. It kind of opens up your mind and makes you more empathetic as a person. You're not thinking like a horse. You're just thinking one way, but you're able to open your mind to many things. And like Huda said, I hope after this pandemic we really change our ways of living and we make the world a little more sustainable and more, there should be more fairness to people who are not born with privileges, like me. The platform should become open to everybody, and the end shouldn't, your means shouldn't decide what end you take. So that's one thing I hope that changes really after this whole thing.
The optimist in me, feels like it's what I'd love to see is that this technology that has been sort of developed in this kind of, in a big hurry because of the pandemic and has served so many people so well to really bring people together is something that will be a lot more common for young people in the future as they grow up, so that a young musician who is, who's learning to play their instrument and wants to collaborate can have the whole world at their fingertips to collaborate. There can become, a way of kind of finding random introductions or introductions based on, your interest, or somebody who's interested in some music track that you put up and wants to play with you, but they're from the other side of the planet, that they can contact you and say, hey, why don't we get online and try to play together? And, to do that with young people, to give young people the chance to respond to any of the music in the world and have a meaningful musical artistic connection with somebody from the other side of the world. The challenge there, however, is that, there is a digital divide, and there are people who just don't have the tech, don't have the hardware that it requires to make that happen. There was a time when electricity was a thing of privileged people. Less so today. Much more of the world has electricity, but I do hope that the internet eventually becomes something that, all children growing up will have access to, because this is such a powerful thing for our world.
And I just want to say that one of the technical issues, I love what you're saying, Ray, because one of the technical issues we had with Irina at some point is that the connection in Italy was for slower than our connection here at the time, right?
Yeah.
So, in also trying to adjust our lives in terms of understanding that, oh, wait a second, I need like a much more width right now for me to be able to connect to people and function. And it's not something that everyone has access to. And it puts so many limitations on a lot of the things that we took for granted, like schools, for example, beyond, the small bits and pieces of collaborating on music projects. So, yeah.
Wow. I miss you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for this time. It was so not only good. I think it's something that it's good for me to remind that the differences really are something that can improve our point of view, like Anjana said before. And sometimes it's not that we forget it, but it's just it's so strange time that sometimes we really we don't believe anymore in this, right? So we say, okay, yeah, the world is a beautiful place, yeah, but and then you just bring music and bring instrument together and bring people and culture, and you talk and do music together, and immediately you can feel like something moving again in your body, and you see, okay, yeah, oh, that's why, yeah. Now I remember. So thank you guys all for remember me this, and I hope for more in the future. Let's see.
Indeed,
Let's
yeah.
Davide and Huda work on that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
In 2021, the topic of the season that I'm working on is about actually improvisation, the how the people is adapted to the time, and also a bit the multi-language. So it's definitely I will ask you again help for my season, and we will find the way. I will try to find a way to work with you, because you're all very interesting, different voices from the world, and this is very, for me, it's beautiful. Then thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope to see you soon then.
Thank you, Davide.
Thank you, Irina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Irina. Thank you,
Irina and
Anjana,
Davide.
Huda.
Stay
Take care.
safe.
Thank you, everyone.
So good to see you all.
Wonderful to see
Ciao.
you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye. See you.